Welcome to the Healthy Christian Leader Show, friends. I'm Dwight Habermill, and I'm here today with our guest, Dr. Brian Knappett. And I know this is going to be a very, very interesting show because we're going to be talking about our physical health and well-being, and looking at it from a naturopathic doctor's perspective and a holistic element of health. Brian, one of the privileges that I have is that you're actually my naturopathic doctor. I have somebody who takes care of me from a general medicine perspective and also from a naturopathic perspective. And Brian, I've gained so much benefit from it in terms of mobility and energy and vitality. So it's a privilege to be able to have you share a little bit today on the program, and particularly because I know you love the Lord, and your faith is an important part of your journey. So I want to start off with the question, what is naturopathic medicine, and how does that differ from traditional medicine, and how do they work hand in hand?
Okay, yes. So this sometimes can be a confusing question, but I will do my best here. Should be able to. So naturopathic medicine is not described really by what we do, but it's more in why we do what we do. Again, this can be a bit confusing. For example, like we use nutrition and diet, we use body work, we use counseling, we use herbals and homeopathics, we use acupuncture. And all kinds of other things like vitamins and mineral supplementation. But here's the thing, all of these different therapies can be done in a naturopathic Y or in actually an allopathic mainstream Y. And I'll get into that here in a little bit. So mainstream is based on a very elegant and simple model of diagnosing and treatment of disease. This is a bit of an oversimplification, but the doctor will diagnose and then give you something to heal or cure the patient. In a sense, the why is to heal with some therapy. And naturopathic medicine, our why we do what we do, is not to heal the patient, but to help the patient heal themselves. Now, this isn't just wordsmithing. This seem like a bit of a subtle difference, but in naturopathic medicine, the emphasis is on helping the body restore healthy function as opposed to disease removal. In essence, naturopathic medicine assumes that health or sickness exists in the body because physiologically or biochemistry or the terrain of the body allow that health or sickness to exist. I also believe that naturopathic medicine should be integrative. We should practice integrative medicine. Like in the past, we talked about alternative medicine or complementary. We're trying to, at least I am trying to move away from those terms because alternative is in a sense is opposed to or instead of. Complementary is kind of like in addition to. So if we think about it, if we try to practice integrative, it's in collaboration with. And so that whole emphasis really is like it should be the patient is always first and always the focus. Sometimes it can be like oil and water, but again, as we keep working together, oil and water can hopefully work together.
No, and it's been incredibly effective for both Kristen and I in our lives. Tell us a little bit about your personal faith and how your personal faith influences the way you work and deal with naturopathic medicine.
How it influences how I operate as a naturopathic doctor, like we really do get a sense of the reality of heaven and hell, and then the implications of that. So in some ways, it's easier when we're obviously working with the family of believers because we don't necessarily have the fear of death, and we have the spirit of love and power and self-discipline. There's no condemnation. We can rest in the grace of God. We have joy, peace, and hope. So that really gives us a freedom to really set the nervous system in some ways at ease, and so which really helps the healing process.
So, what does it mean to strive for holistic health as Christian leaders? Like, Brian, there's the weight of leadership is significant for many pastoral leaders. The expectations that people have and the circumstances that people find themselves in, and the whole journey of leading, particularly in days like this with the COVID pandemic that we've just gone through, has put a lot of pressure on churches because of all of the fast, rapid change and even changes in the congregation themselves. And a lot of change, a lot of pressure, a lot of stress we've found. What does it mean to strive for holistic health as a Christian leader? How important is it, and what does it mean?
Right. So, and holistic health, I think, so I'm going to just back up a little bit. So, holistic health as a Christian leader or just a leader in general, because there's certainly extra pressures in some ways on the Christian leader, but the Lord does cause the
Yes.
rain, and the sun to shine on both the righteous and the unrighteous. So it really comes back to the natural laws of, and how we have to use them. So the idea of holistic health is the idea that health is really a balanced system that is auto-regulating, and is self-healing. So the idea that we'll come into a stress, whether that's mental, emotional, physical, chemical, otherwise, and then the body's got to be able to regulate with that and heal and promote health. So, and adapt to the different challenges. So, so when it comes to the Christian leader, we'd like to think that it's easier, but it's not necessarily.
Yeah.
And again, because we are all human, right? So we all got the bodies. I'll just briefly talk through that because I think this really expresses how I think as a naturopathic doctor and how we approach each case. So in this little graphic, you're the flower. Like I got a dandelion there, but if you want to be a rose or a cedar tree, you can be that. Okay, so so whether you have cancer, heart disease, stress, anxiety, doesn't matter. This is how we think. There's certain things we can do to prune the plant back to make you feel better, but really, unless you treat the root in the soil, most likely you just go back sick again. Okay, and so when we talk about the root, the soil, the terrain, we often think about the lifestyle stuff, and you can hear about it, but then actually, how do we incorporate it? Like, so proper breathing, belly breathing, just the diaphragmatic breathing really, really helps do lots of different things, from oxygenation to stimulate the vagal nerve to pump the liver and the bowels and reflex into the pelvic floor. Hydration, water, we're made of water. Everything's made better when we're hydrated. Everything's made worse when we're dehydrated. So the importance of remembering to be hydrated. Movement, you can't sit at a desk all day. We got to move. And you don't have to necessarily go to the gym, but if you like the gym, go to the gym. But if you hate the gym, walk your dog, go for a stroll with your wife, partner, and then play tennis, or pile of wood. All counts for movement. Sleep is foundational. It's when we heal. I was reading a book by Daryl Dash, and he talks about how God has a bit of a sense of humor in that, like, for 8 hours of the day, he makes us into a sack of dirt. And so we don't be needed, but it's an important part of our day to heal and regenerate. Sunshine's important for our skin, for vitamin D and all that, but it's also important for our brain, because in a sense we are like a flower. We wake up with the sun, we go to bed with the sun. And the sun sets our metabolic, hormonal, enzymatic rhythms of the day, and the moon sets our rhythms of the month. So when we wake up, say good morning to the sky. Not that we're worshiping the sky, because we worship God. We can just thank God for a new day. Nutrition, we are what we eat. There's all kinds of dogma out there, what you should eat, what you shouldn't eat. That can be very confusing. That can be a whole, well, that can be 10 shows all on its own. But I don't really promote necessarily one diet over the other. I do believe there's a right diet for individuals, which may be different than other individuals. So, and each diet can have its own therapeutic benefit. So, whether you're doing the oil-free vegan or the carnivore or the Mediterranean or the keto, they all they have some benefit. And then, and so, really, I find the elimination and challenge one of the best diets to. It's not a diet; it's just a challenge to get a sense of what food is best for you. There's certain tests you can do to help narrow that down a little bit. Love and laughter, that's a big one. But just saying that's a big one. Like this all is orchestrated. Like it's not all about one or the other. Like you really need them all working together. But love and laughter, you need to give love, need to receive love. That really helps build, and it's amazing how it impacts the physical health. Margin and stress, the idea of balance. So when we're talking about the stresses of the Christian leader, just being aware of what everyone has their own ability to manage and handle different stresses. So just know yourself and then protect your boundaries, because you can't spend $10 when you got two. So when we overload ourselves and cross those different boundaries, it often steals the love and laughter and chokes the plant. Learning keeping our mind active is important for all stages of our life, not only as a youth, but even as we age. We need to keep our mind active, because that has been shown, like, even in the golden years, like when someone does volunteering or takes up a new hobby or goes back to school, it keeps dementia at bay. So all those lifestyle things, they're all within the person's ability and empowerment. So like I have a bottle of water and I can give it to you, but you got to drink it, right? I can say, don't eat dairy, but if you just can't drop, your cheese or your cafe mocha or whatever, uh, that's up to you. There's no judgment on my part, because again, we all have our own things, but that's where the responsibility lands on the person and the stewardship of that. Just to speed this along, more physically, this is the stuff that we can assess and see if we need to help. But like people can eat all the right things, but if they can't digest and absorb the nutrition from that good food, so they may be eating their sardines, their eggs, their salads, but if they can't digest and absorb that nutrition from that good food, like they might as well eat McDonald's. Like, don't do that. But the idea is, you eat good food, let's be able to digest and absorb it, which is can be a big bottleneck for many people's health. And so basically I assess that with everybody and encourage people to really focus on that. Thoughts, these aren't even physical, they're electrical, and they don't even have to be true. You can believe a lie and have it totally impact the toxin and stress load the body's got to manage. Medications, they have their place, but certainly carry the little toxicity, which the body's got to manage. And like chemo would be the classic example for that, because chemo is designed to be toxic to the cancer tumor, but it's also in some degree toxic to the whole body. So the body's got to manage and detoxify that and get rid of it. And then prenatal, whatever happens when you were in your mother's womb, the health and or sickness of that relationship also impacts life further on down the line. So the first step really is to stop the bad from coming in. But even if it was all good, Dwight, which it never is. So let's again go back to your sardines, your eggs, your salad. In the process of making energy, we make carbon dioxide that if we didn't breathe that out, we'd be dead in a matter of minutes. So the body has ways. We are fearfully and wonderfully made, that God has created ways for us to eliminate these kind of toxins. So the lungs, you breathe it out; kidneys, you pee it out; liver, digest tract, you poop it out; skin, you sweat it out; emotions, you cry, you rage, you laugh, you communicate it out. And so really that's step two. So step one is stop the bad. Step two is open up the drains. And then generally, I really strongly recommend back up and let the miracle of life happen, because my faith is not in my vitamin C or my milk thistle or my NAC or this or that herb. My faith is in your body's ability to heal. And if we just give the body what it needs, remove obstacles to cure, I expect and marvel at the fact that the
Hmm.
body will right itself, and that I really do find is the miracle of life. And so, and whether we understand it or not, I don't care as long as the
Hmm.
person gets better, right? Um, Everyone's barrel is a little different, you know. George Burns was a comedian, you know. I find in some generation, all right, I'm of a generation that remembers him, but uh, younger people, of course, don't know. But he was a comedian doing his act in his 100th year, but he always had a stogie, a cigar in his hand, and he made a joke. Smoking's good for you. Look at me. Now, he wasn't necessarily the picture of health, but he was working in his 100th year. And, but he was able clearly to get rid of his toxicity away. There's other people doing everything clean, clean, clean. They got the window down, a diesel truck goes by, and now they got a migraine for the weekend. You know, life happens. Those with smaller barrels need to be more diligent in what comes in, and really diligent in trying to open up the drains. So that's really how, in a sense, naturopathic medicine thinks.
No, I just really appreciate it because you're talking about. I like the word you chose earlier that about stewardship of our bodies. Our body is designed to function a certain way, and you have to steward the care, and it's self healing to a degree if it's properly stewarded, and that's a very helpful picture for me personally, and some very very good stuff in there. Um,
Yeah, no. So Dwight, and also just to, because I know we're talking to spiritual leaders, so it's sometimes helpful, and I see the connections all the time, like sin, spiritual sin. If you think of sin and compare it to a toxin, then that might help understand the impact that
mhm.
it has on the body. Yeah, I
Yeah,
find that
because
correlation often
sin
very helpful.
basically comes in. There's a corruption of um, our lives and breaks down what God intended and how God intended it to function. And in, I guess, in the same way that when we're not treating our bodies as they're intended to be treated, you basically, in a computer analogy, I guess it was like corrupting the files, so to speak. No, that's very good.
Yeah.
Brian, sometimes we as leaders believe that we're invincible to some degree. I don't know. It must be part of the psyche of the leader. I don't know. But we believe like we're the energizer bunny, that we can go and go and go, and somehow God's grace will sustain our body. But there's some actual biblical principles that would suggest that our body has to be cared for. You had mentioned that once before. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because we are finite and we have limits, and so the body needs to rest. And so again, that's the principle of the Sabbath. You can, you can't, you really can't cram 30 hours and 24 hours a day. You can't stay up all night and then expect to be operating on all cylinders. I know, God gives rest to the weary and will soar like eagles, but he also says he gives rest to those he loves. And
Mm-hmm.
unless the Lord builds the house, the builder builds in vain. So it's
Mm-hmm.
okay. And I think it could be almost a sign of arrogance or pride breaking
Mm-hmm.
into the fact that I can do it all through Christ who strengthens me, which is it's a beautiful passage, but it's not meant that we can, one, need to do it alone, and two, burn ourselves out, because burnout
Mm-hmm.
is a real thing, uh, both physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual.
Mm.
So yeah, the spiritual significance of the way we treat our physical body is a big deal. Absolutely. There's that, I don't know who said it, but to lose one's health, renders science null, art inglorious, strength invalid, wealth useless, eloquence powerless. The
Hmm.
like the whole idea that if we lose our health and crash,
We've
it
lost
really is
everything.
it really is a stewardship issue. Yeah, I think we mentioned that before, but like if we are to make the most of every opportunity, if we are to number our days, if we are to be a good and faithful steward, we need to take care of our bodies because our bodies can't. We are finite, and that's a beautiful
Mm-hmm.
thing. That's not a negative thing. It's a beautiful thing that the way God has created us, and so the rule of the Sabbath, the rule of getting sleep when we need it, and on the whole, not that we won't have long days, but there will also be times of rest, right? So, but on a weekly or even daily pattern, the sun rises and the sun sets, and we are need to sleep and regenerate. So when we wake up, we break ourselves down to do work. We go to bed. We build ourselves up, and then it happens again the next day. And God has
Mm-hmm.
day by day given us the work that we need to do, um, but we don't have to do tomorrow's work today.
Mm. Yeah, it's all about balance, obviously, and stewarding. I love the word stewarding. In many ways, might physical health influence other facets of our well-being, such as emotional or spiritual health?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And like there's again well documented references even to like the idea of an inflamed gut or like intestines and anxiety and depression, the liver inflammation and anger and personality. Like those are kind of weird things. Like how do you connect those things? But um, totally that is connected. And as I was looking at it, I was researching this a little bit more. I came across like C.S. Lewis's material in the letters to Malcolm and just how even on the positions of prayer. So if you think about the positions, physical positions in prayer and how it can influence prayer, certainly the physical body can influence uh, our mental, emotional health, and also, I believe, spiritual health.
Mm. Brian, sometimes there's a gap between our health goals and our health behaviors. Um, what advice can you give leaders who want to work towards aligning their health behaviors to their goals?
Yeah, so that again, the leaders actually are probably really good at this in some ways, but we're all human, so you got to make time, right? Like it's not going to happen if you don't give it time. Um, like if you got to move the body and you want to spend 10 15 minutes, well you can't not give the body 10 15 minutes to move. You got to understand the natural laws, so like drinking water, um, like just those things that I mentioned in the whole lifestyle aspect, those takes time and discipline, and you got to do that. You can look upstream to see the cause of certain illnesses, like you can do certain things to always try to clean something up, but if you would just to look upstream to see what is causing this problem, whether that's physical, mental, emotional, or a relationship that you may need to, have good boundaries uh, and execute boundaries. That's a real thing, and so and accountability, of course, is a big help. So again, you don't have to do this alone. And whether you use someone like a professional, like a naturopathic doctor or a medical doctor or a counselor, or you use your friend, um, or your spouse or whoever, it's important because to get help because we can't do it all ourselves. And try to make it simple. Those are principles that cross the board into leadership and into attaining goals, basically.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Mm. What is working in healthcare, especially with a focus on natural health support, taught you about God?
Yeah. So I think it's a real privilege to work in the healthcare because we really do see that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. Like it's beyond us. And as we discover, like our hairs really are numbered. when you get into the biochemistry and the nitty gritty, like it's so complex, it's wonderful. And then when you go up in the synergistic aspect of everything, again, it's art. It really is art. And so
Mm-hmm.
God is love, you know, the natural laws make wise as simple. That's a verse that I really like, both from uh, a God's word perspective, but also in the natural laws. Like I'm a simpleton, and if I can just, you know, incorporate these natural laws, it makes me wise whether I understand it or not. So,
Mm.
um, and you know, it's not all like, then you think about the problem of pain. So like are dealing with people who are sick and hurting, and then so that often is a question that comes up, right? Like, what about the problem of pain? And again, C.S. Lewis is a great resource there to think about. And I think about the Tower of Shalom and how those 18 people died. Like, we live in a fallen world and a sick world, both from a moral and physical, chemical, toxic world that affects. Um, yeah, it's a groaning. I like the word that Paul used, a groaning world that we live
Mm.
in. So we can look forward to the day when we will be made new. Um, so we do have that hope, we do have that peace, and we have that love, which again we need to be able to share and
Mm.
and encourage. It's such a huge encouragement, and hopefully we can be salt and light. Yeah.
Dr. Brian Knappett, the Healthy Christian Leader, great to have you with us today. Brian, we'll look forward to a conversation again in the future. This has been good.
Great. Thank you, Dwight.
Well, thanks for joining this conversation. I trust that you were encouraged and challenged by the stories and experiences that were shared today. Would you join us next week? You can find new episodes weekly in video form on the Aaron Ministries YouTube page and in audio form wherever you get your podcasts. Aaron Ministries is an interdenominational network of friends in ministry with a mission to foster healthy Christian leadership. Check out our website, aaronministries.com, for more information and resources, and on how you can donate to our ministry and potentially start a healthy Christian leader gathering in your area. Until we meet again, may you experience the Lord's blessing, grace, and peace. I'll see you next week.